Hey friend, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on the video. Listen, if this is your first time here, welcome. I give lighthearted reviews and recaps of some of my favorite TV shows and movies. So if this is something that interests you, go ahead and click that subscribe button. If you like what you see, hit that like button for your girl. And of course, leave me a comment. I have a lot more content coming to my channel, and I'm glad you're here. So with that being said, let's get into it. All right, y'all. So we are back with The Shy. This is season 7, episode 2, and this one was called The Fallout. All right, so let's just get into it. So the episode opens up. We see Miss Alicia. She's at home and she's kind of rushing around the house, kind of, I don't know if there's an event happening or what's going on, but Tiff comes in and she's like, "Hey, Alicia, I need to talk to you." She's like, "What is it?" She's just kind of acting like she's busy and can't be bothered. Anyway, Tiff goes ahead and lets her know that she is pregnant. And oh my goodness, Miss Alicia's face, she was so overjoyed. I mean, I was happy to hear this. I kind of figured from last episode when Tiffany was talking about how tired she was and nauseous. Whenever you hear the word nauseous, it's like, okay, honey, it only means one thing and one thing only. But anyway, it is true. Tiffany is having a baby, and Alicia is just simply beside herself. She's so happy. She's like, okay, my legacy can live on. And I'm really happy for Miss Alicia that she can, maybe try to find a little bit of closure and a little bit of peace, with the fact that she lost her son. All right. So next, let's go over to Pastor and Nook, right? So we remember from last episode that the pastor, kind of was trying to get to know Nook a little bit because now that Duda's gone and, we were washing the money throughout the church and everything. So he went to go see him and he wanted to be his spiritual advisor. So I think what's going on with Nook right now is that there's a war going on inside his head between, do I want to be in the streets or do I want to be a good father? Do I want to be out here doing street stuff or do I want to be a noble guy, right? Do I want to, do the right thing? And so the pastor's like, "Look, here, take your money, and when you're really, really ready to do this, I'll be there," right? And Nook is like, "Yeah, you really don't understand. I got my peoples. I got to be hard because this is my persona. Like, I'm Nook." And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, I get all of that, but whenever you're ready to really take this walk, I'll be there." All right. So I think Nook is going to struggle this season. It'll be interesting to see, what he does. Is he going to choose the streets or is he going to be a good man, for his son? So we'll see what happens there. And then we see Damien and Emmett, and it looks like they're chilling out at the barbershop and they're just kicking it or whatever. And Emmett looks at Damien and sees that he's wearing black fingernail polish, and he's like, "Yo, what's up with the black fingernail polish?" He was like, "Oh, nothing, it's just something that I'm trying." He was like, "Okay, are you gay? Like, you like girls, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, of course I like girls. This is just something, but of course," he's like, "But of course what?" He's like, "Well, I'm open. I always keep myself open." And I thought it was funny that once he did that, he started like flipping it back on Emmett. Like, "I know you ain't talking. You got that pinky ring on. You mixing gold and silver and diamonds and pearls and all everything. So he kind of gave it back to Emmett. And I thought that was a really cute scene. And it's good to see the brothers are getting along. We know that we were introduced to Damien last season, one of Darnell's many, many kids that he has, but him and Emmett are actually the same age. So it'll be interesting to see how they progress with their relationship. I think it's great to see though. Okay, so back at Alicia's, Alicia is telling Tiffany, "Hey, look, I think you should move in here. I think you should move out of your home. Don't worry about it. We'll have somebody pack you out. You can come over here. This could be your room. Look at this room, girl. Isn't this nice?" She's like, "Yeah, this is real nice. And so she wants her to move in with her. She's like, "I can help you out with the baby." And she also gives her the cigar bar to run, right? So you can tell that Alicia is really going to be heavily involved in this pregnancy. It could even cross some lines, because Alicia is grieving the loss of her son Rob, and we got this baby, and Lord forbid the baby turns out to be a boy child. I mean, who knows? So I just think that Tiff needs to be a little bit more careful and maybe think about moving in with Alicia. I don't know, because I just feel like it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. Speaking of Tiff, she also tells Keisha about the pregnancy. And Keisha's just as happy. She's like, oh my God, girl, we're going to be pregnant together. Look at us. It's like, yeah. So she's like, yeah, that's cool and everything. But girl, don't say nothing to anybody. Not right now. You can go ahead and let Emmett know. But other than that, don't tell anybody else. And she's like, okay, girl. So we'll see what happens to that. Because, once you tell Emmett, who knows? Everybody in the neighborhood be done knew about it by the end of the day. Okay, y'all. If y'all remember last season, we had Lene, who was Kevin's girlfriend. Shout out to Kevin. I really hope they bring Kevin's character back. Speaking of that, in the show, Maisha is, and I'm kind of flipping here because I'm just talking about Kevin, but Maisha did get an invitation from Kevin to move out to LA. So shout out to Maisha. She's probably going to be leaving the show, but I don't know. But right now, she was telling Papa that Kevin does want her to move out to LA. But anyway, let's get back to Lene. So Lene is now living with her brother Jamal. And if y'all remember last season, Jamal was seeing Dom. Shout out to Lala Anthony. She is back, y'all. But Janae is upset because Jamal didn't mention that he was moving Dom in, honey. So she's in there just chilling. All of a sudden, here comes Dom holding his box. And she's like, excuse me? And she's like, hey, girl, hey, my name is Dom. So she's completely caught off guard and she's a little upset about it. So she's like fussing at Jamal, like, hey, you need to run that by me, before you start bringing in people, bringing people in here. And, Jamal's kind of like, hey, I ain't got to tell you who I'm bringing in here, which was completely not a good thing, Jamal. Like, you really do need to let her know who you're bringing in here. I mean, that's a little crazy. But anyway, he realizes it and he does apologize to Lene. And at the end of their whole thing, I think Dom cooks up a delicious meal and they sit down and they eat. And honey, once Lene ate that food, she was like, oh, you good. You can stay. I thought that was cute. I'm interested to see how they go. I think that this storyline between Dom and Jamal is going to probably grow into something. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. All right, so we got Bakari. He's chilling over at Nuck's place, and he's telling Nuck about the scholarship that he has. And Nuck is like truly happy for him, right? And so Bakari's like, yo, until I finish school, is it okay if I chill out here with you? And I'm like, Bakari, no. Take your butt to the dorms. You got your scholarship. Go live in the dorms. Please don't live with Nook. But anyway, Nook is like, yeah, for sure. You can live with me. That's no problem. So he's like, so you ended up getting that scholarship? And he's like, yeah, Professor Gardner hooked it up. One thing that I noticed about Bakari that he did not mention is about Alicia. And for some reason, I really feel like that's going to come back to bite Bakari. I think you should probably let Nook know about the whole Alicia scholarship thing because if it does come out, it's kind of may look like, he might be hiding something from him, which she doesn't really owe him anything, but you know how Nook is, honey. So I just think he just needs to be upfront with Nook because Nook is crazy. Anyway, we got Keisha and Emmett. They're at the house. Keisha can't find little boy's shoes. She's screaming all up and down the house. Where's the shoe? Where's the shoe? And there's just complete chaos. And I'm like, why is it complete chaos? You guys have one more child and he's not a baby. Like he can find his own shoe. But anyway, this is the shy, honey. I kind of rolled my eyes during this little segment here. And I'm like, okay, all right, Lena. All right, Lena. I'm trying to rock with you here, girl. But anyway, she's talking to Emmett and she's saying, look, I know you're tired, but you can't afford to be tired. We got work to do. And look, I need help. I'm pregnant. You're going to have to take the kids. We're going to have to get these kids on some kind of routine, some kind of schedule. We don't know how long we're going to have EJ, but I'm going to need you to step up. So that's what Emmett's going to do. He's going to step up. He's taking the kids to work. And honey, that is just a complete mess. We'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so the next thing we see is Jake and child these kids. Every time I see these kids doing adult things, I'm just like, Lord. I mean, where did the time go? I'm going back to season one when they were just just tiny tots, just riding their bikes and everything, and now they're laying in the bed with other women and men and just doing the most. But anyway, Jake is laid up with some girl and his phone goes off. Of course, the girl that he's laid up with is able to see his phone and he sees that it says First Lady. And I'm like, Jake, why is that lady's phone number saved in your phone as First Lady? Why, Jake? But anyway, she's asking questions. He's like, I don't have to tell you anything. Mind your own business. And so it's like, well, is she really a first lady? And he's like, yeah, she's really a first lady. And I'm like, Jake, oh my God, like, you know how these girls are. They are going to do their research and they are going to find out who it is. And sure enough, old girl goes on Instagram Live and she's like, listen, here's the tea, spills all of it, says the girl, the lady, the first lady is sleeping with Jake so and so from the church of the you know what, where, and everybody is giving the poor first lady the blues on Instagram. They are just calling her everything but a child of God. And they're going up for Jake. Jake's like the best thing since sliced bread. They are praising Jake and they're giving the first lady the blues. So you know they ain't looking too well over at the pastor's house right now. We gonna get there in a minute. So this next scene, this was kind of like my eye roll moment. You know, like sometimes with the shy, we have our eye roll moments, and honey, this was one of them. We got Emmett. He's at work. He's at Smokey's. It's a packed house. He's trying to get everybody's orders out, doing his job and everything. All of a sudden, he's got these little kids just running around in the back of the restaurant, and I'm like, okay, hold up. Emmett, stop what you're doing. Go get a coloring book. Go sit that little boy down and tell him to sit down. I mean, I don't know, but running around in the back of the restaurant while you're trying to cook and do everything else is just not that's not the move. So anyway, the little boy, baby Ronnie, he gets hurt. I think he breaks his arm. They got to rush him to the hospital, right? So they get to the hospital, and of course, the baby father shows up. Nuck is there, and he's not a happy camper. He's like, "Listen, you're gonna be around my son. I'm gonna need you to, do better because we can't have that." And he's like, "Oh, you need to lower your voice." So they're going back and forth or whatever, and they finally calm down a little bit later on. They're in the waiting room, and Emmett offers him a bottle of water. And they're talking and just talking about how hard it is raising kids and everything. And so Emmett goes ahead and spills the beans because he's like, yeah, it's really hard. And, Tiff's pregnant. It's going to be hard on her, now that she's already got the kid and now she's going to be pregnant again. And I'm like, Lord. So this really did something to Nook because it's because of him that Tiff is by herself because he took out Rob. So you can tell that this is going to affect Nook. And, I'm kind of glad that Nook found out about it because I think it's going to weigh in which way he's going to go. Is he going to turn good or is he going to stay, still stay for the streets? So we'll see what happens there. Okay, so back at Alicia's, we got Bakari. He's there, he got the scholarship, so he's going to be spending, more time with Alicia and everything. And so, of course, Rashad is there as well, and that's a chance for Bakari to ask Rashad, hey, why didn't you tell me that you were going to take out Zay? Like, you could have told me that. He's like, well, you owe me and everything. Well, he doesn't really see it that way because he's like, listen, I'm the one that told you where he was. So this could come back to me. And I think that Rashad is kind of on one with Bakari right now. He don't like the fact that he's around Alicia's, and he also don't like the fact that Alicia moved in Tiff. I think he's kind of feeling like a sucker right now. So he goes up to Alicia and he's just like, look, I don't appreciate the fact that this guy's here all the time. I don't appreciate the fact that you didn't talk to me before you said that Tiff could move in here. And I'm just feeling like this ain't my house. Like I can't make no moves. I can't make no decisions. You don't talk to me about anything. And Alicia's like, okay, well, you can go because nothing's gonna change. But you think he going anywhere? Nope, he gonna be right there because that's just how Rashad is. He goes from woman to woman, and they talk about that later on. I think Vic was teased. No, it was Jada. Jada was talking about how first he was with the one girl, I can't think of her name. After he got out of prison, he was with her. Now he's shacking up with Alicia. So it's like, you might want to get your own, Rashad. Just get your own spot. You can still be with Alicia if you want, but you're never gonna get that respect if you're just living in her house like that, right? So later on, we see Bakari. He goes to Smokey, and that's when he meets Damien for the first time. And he's like, hey, my brother's is Emmett. And he's like, oh, okay, Emmett's good people or whatever. So he also notices Damien's nail polish and he's like, yeah, it ain't nothing. It's just something that I'm trying out or whatever. And so Bakari has a J like underneath like by his ear. And he's like, yeah, you need to stop smoking that. Like, if you really want to take it easy on your lungs, you need to do edibles because they're better. And so a little bit later on, because Bakari's like, yeah, edibles, they mess my stomach up. So a little bit later on, you see all the adults, they're hanging out, and it looks like Bakari does have an edible because he's at this party and he is clearly lit on edibles. And so Damien is just sitting there like laughing at him. He's like, yo, if I wrote a book, would you read it? And he's like, what? You're writing a book? He's like, yeah. He's like, is it interesting? He's like, yeah, it's about my life. He's like, yeah, okay, I guess I'll read it. So I'm really glad that Bakari is really taking this book seriously and he is going to write this book. I think this is going to catapult him into, away from all of this drama, away from the Nook and away from the Rashad and all of that. And I'm just rooting for him. Like, go Bakari. Let's go. So if you guys remember at the beginning, Alicia had gave the cigar bar to Tiff to run. I don't know if she gave it to her, just gave it, hey, this is your cigar bar, or she just gave it to her to run. But anyway, Tiffany is there and she's trying to get things squared away. We see Vic, he's also there. So he's just like, hey, I'm really sorry to hear about what happened, with Rob and everything. He was a good dude, he didn't deserve all that. And she's like, okay, I appreciate you. And Vic is like, hey, if you ever need anything, I'm here to help, with anything you need. And so she kind of thinks about it. She's like, well, as a matter of fact, I do need some help around here. And I don't know, but there was like a look in Vic's eyes. I don't know if he was like kind of feeling Tiff or what, but I got my good eye on that one because I think that it would be a pretty good match myself. I mean, because Vic's girl, she's left Chicago. I don't know what's going on with that, but from the last episode, she was just done with Chicago and ready to go. So, Vic, we got our eye on you, my boy. We'll see what happens there. Anyway, meanwhile, back at the church, honey, we got Pastor Zeke, Charles, and the First Lady, and they are trying to figure out how they are going to squash this situation that's going on. And so the pastor is sitting here talking to the first lady like, if only you were to just keep cool and just kind of be on the DL with your stuff, but no, you couldn't do that. So Charles is like, listen, how about I preach on Sunday? You ain't got to worry about it. I got this. I'm going to preach and you guys just sit back. Or if you want to take a vacation, you can take a vacation. Y'all should just go, but I got it. And I'm like, okay, okay, Charles, what are you doing? Cuz it's kind of seeming like you're trying to take over something. I don't know. I'm getting Dre from Power Vibes here right now. And I'm just like, all right. But anyway, they agree, and so Charles is going to give the sermon on Sunday, and we're going to see how Charles does, honey. We got Darnell. He's headed out to the man's circle meeting, and Jada's sitting there teasing him, like, "Look at you, where are you off to?" So I just love their little their back and forth that they have with each other. Like they really do seem like they really do love each other. Just great actors. Anyway, so Jada decides that she's gonna have a women's group, and so Darnell's just like, oh, that ain't gonna be nothing. Y'all gonna be sitting up just gossiping about stuff, and it's like, no, I think it'll be good. So Jada's gonna, do that, and then in the meanwhile, Darnell's off to the man group. We got all the men. They're at the cigar bar. They're cutting up about the events of the week. They're laughing at Darnell with the Dom situation, and it even slips out kinda that Dom was kind of for the streets there for a minute, And he's like, "What you mean by that?" They're like, "Honey, go ask her. Just ask her." Anyway, they talk about Jake and the first lady, and they're just cutting up and they're having a good time. I think they do toast to Rob, and they're talking about how dude, I just terrorized the neighborhood, so they're kind of glad they don't have to worry about that anymore. Meanwhile, the ladies are also having their discussion. We have Tierra there because that's Gemma's daddy. They were going together. Tierra wants a baby. Gemma's daddy don't want one, and they break up. So it'll be interesting to see what goes on with Tierra. I don't know if she's getting ready to be phased out as well, but right now she's saying that she wants a baby. But the ladies agree that this is something that they really need, and they're hoping that next time Tiff joins them. So we'll see what happens. But it's really good to have that men's circle and that women's circle. I think it's good to come together and just kind of chop it up with your people. It's so good to see. Okay, so we see Papa and Jake, and they're sitting there, they're playing a video game, and they're talking about the fact that Zay is no longer with us. And you know how Papa is. Papa's like, he was still a child of God no matter what. And Jake is like, later for that. Man, that guy would have took us out without even skipping a beat, right? So we also see that Papa is talking to the pastor's daughter, who was Zay's girlfriend, and she's talking about how she just needs to get away and she wants to go somewhere else. She goes and she talks to her daddy about moving to Arkansas with the great grandmother, so that oh no, with her grandmother. Um, because she needs help and it'd be good for the baby, be good for the grandmother to see the great grandson and all this, that, and the third. So he agrees. And so she's off to go do that. She just has to get away. So, Zay is missed. He is being mourned as well. Okay, so then we got Jake. He meets with the first lady. He apologizes. She's like, "Stay away from me," and to get my number out your phone or whatever. She's like, "Okay, I'm sorry, first lady." She's like, "Goodbye, Jake," and I'm like, there's no goodbye in that goodbye. I really feel like they're gonna be probably seeing each other again. It's really weird. Anyway, Nook now knows about Tiff being pregnant, so he goes back to the Pasa and he's just ready to get some advisement from him. So he feels really bad that Tiff is pregnant. He knows it's all his fault. And he actually goes to Tiff and he says that he didn't want her money anymore. Because you remember before he was like taking money from her and Rob's cannabis business. And so he went up to the cigar bar and was just like, "Look, I don't want your money anymore." And she was like, "Well, I wasn't going to give it to you anyway." And so, he's really trying to help her out, helped her with the door that was stuck. There was a door that was stuck in the lounge. And so he helped her with that and talked about how they used to hold meetings back there and everything. And he's like, "Whatever you need, I'm here." So you could tell that guilt is really eating that Nook. So, I don't know if Nook is going to confess or someone's going to find out about it, but he's like kind of a character you kind of love to hate. Like you want him to do right, but because you can tell and you can see that there is some good in him, but he's just right now he's just too far in those streets. So, Tiff's kind of upset that she finds out because Nook brings it up that she's pregnant. She goes and fusses at them, and they're like, "Oh snap! Oh, you did tell me, but you didn't tell me that it was a secret. I couldn't tell nobody else." And I'm like, "Y'all are tripping." But anyway, she's all right with it, but she's like, "All right, I just want to let y'all know Nook knows." So now everybody is starting to find out that Tiff is indeed pregnant. All right. And lastly, it is Sunday morning, and we are at church. We got Charles up there, and he is bringing the word of God, honey, and he is in his bag. He's really doing a great job. He's talking about um, forgiveness and people judging people, and we got Nook, he's there, he's soaking the word up, and Pastor Charles is he's doing his thing, and we've got the pastor and the first lady Ezekiel and his wife. They're sitting in the pulpit, and they're just soaking it all in. They didn't go on vacation, they decided to stay. And I'm just like, that's good for you, Pastor Ezekiel, because you need to be keeping your good eye on Charles there, because it looked like that he's maybe trying to take over your flock and your congregation. So you might want to keep your good eye on him. And with that being said, that was the end of the episode. I thought it was a pretty good episode. I hope that the writing continues on the same line of what it's doing right now. So far it's good. We do know sometimes with the shy they can kind of go a little left sometimes and just have you rolling your eyes throughout the whole episode. But this one was a solid episode. I'm excited to see what happens next. I think we're gonna like do a little bit of a time jump with episode 3, but I'll be here to review it. I hope you are as well. Thank you so much for clicking on the video again, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.